To those of you guys who are actually looking to get into real estate, I'm not talking about like you just wish you were in real estate, but you're actually trying to make this like your real full-time business. I have some news for you. And this is a great video for you to watch right now so that you can actually set right expectations as far as realistic expectations of what you plan to accomplish and how you see it being accomplished. It's important to have a goal of what you plan to do, but it's also important to know what you're going to be facing while you're trying to accomplish your goal. And this video is pretty much going to be about the sales cycle for wholesaling land. You guys probably seen a lot of my videos as far as me telling you guys wholesaling land is the best way to get your first deal, and I still completely agree that it's the best way to get your first deal, but you have to understand how much time it's going to take you for you to actually complete the deal. Let's just assume that you've gotten all the information already. Let's just assume that you got all the information. Let's assume that you're ready to take action and you decide to do mailers. You got your mailers and everything is done and people are calling you. And when people start calling you, that's when the sales cycle begins. It's important that if you're not already, you have to take your leads very seriously. I mean, I hope you do, because you spent a lot of money to get these leads, right? Like your marketing campaign, let's say you're sending like 3,000 mailers, you're probably gonna be spending like $1,500 to get these leads. So it's like, you better make it worth it. Once you've gotten these leads, they're calling you and you now are in communication with them, you have to make offers. And the quicker you make the offers, the quicker you can be able to have that conversation with the seller, which means the quicker you're able to potentially get a deal. So you made an offer and you guys negotiate. Let's say maybe it takes a couple of days for you guys to negotiate back and forth, and then you finally get the deal in the contract. That is the next step in the sales cycle. In the acquisition, you're taking the call, negotiating, getting it on a contract, boom, acquisition. Now, once you acquire the deal, you have to sell the deal now. You have to. It's important for you to build a buyer's list so that you can have certain buyers in the market that you're gonna be in to be able to wholesale the deal to. Ideally, that's kind of how you want your first couple deals to go. But let's say you don't have a buyer now. Now, what do? The reason why I tell people that you need to have at least 90 days in your contract is especially because of that's one reason. Like if you don't have a buyer who wants to buy the deal already, then you need to give yourself time for you to find a buyer. If you don't give yourself time to find a buyer, you're gonna end up like basically wasting time. Give yourself 90 days so that you can find a buyer. And obviously the seller's gonna have an idea that that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna tell them, and then they're gonna be okay with it. Now your job is to find a buyer. So what is that sales cycle? So now let's talk in terms of time already from acquisition standpoint. From the time you send your first mailer to the time that you start getting calls, maybe it's 3 weeks already. It might take 2 to 3 weeks for the people to get the mailers. And let's say they start calling like as soon as it drops, and then it kind of spreads a little bit over a period of like 2 weeks or so. That's already 4 or 5 weeks. Okay, that's 1 month and a half basically already that you spend just to get the deal. Now, for you to get a realistic expectation, once you got the deal, you have 90 days to close. If you have a buyer, or if you can find a buyer within 30 days, now you've taken about 60 to 70 days for you to find the seller and find the buyer. That's close to 2.5 months. And I want you to understand that it can happen like that. But there are also going to be instances where maybe you find a seller easily, but it's hard for you to find a buyer. So then now that 70 days turns into 90 days. Mind you that like, let's even say like you actually need to use 60 days from the time you get the contract to the time you find a buyer. That's 60 days plus the 45 days already that you took to get the seller. All I'm trying to tell you is that it's gonna sometimes take time for you to be able to complete the full sales cycle. And you need to be aware of that as you're going in, so that you're not saying, oh, okay, yeah, I got the contract. Now the contract has to sell in 1 week or else like it's game over. If you're like me, that's kind of like how you think. I'm not gonna lie. That's how I think. I'm like, oh my God, like let's say I got a deal, right? And obviously like land, it takes a minute to sell. You know, it could take like 30 to 45 days to sell. So sometimes if like the first week I don't have like a buyer, I'm like panicking. I'm like, yo, this is not a deal, blah, 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 blah. It's not selling, I'm going broke, like it's gonna go, like it's game over. But when you really think about it, like you're in the sales cycle, okay? And it's not game over. And that's why it's important for you to only go into this industry full time once you have a great understanding of the sales cycle. And once you can be able to manage the sales cycle. So like, understand that you might be getting paid every 90 days. If you got paid this month, next month is possible, unless you already have deals lined up, next month is possible that you won't get paid. And trust me, this happens to every single body, all right? Like it doesn't make you a bad entrepreneur. Sometimes maybe it does, like if it's not consistent. But no matter what business, there's gonna be a month where you don't make any money, where you probably are still marketing, where you probably are still negotiating deals, where you're probably still waiting for the buyers. If you don't have a deal already lined up, just anticipate that like you have to now conserve that money for a month or two until you get paid again. I'm just trying to be honest here. Like I'm not trying to like, you know, give you guys all this fluff and stuff like that. Like this is real life things that happen real life in the business. Just you already knowing that, you already anticipating that, it just gives you like kind of an edge, because somebody who's gonna quit and say, oh man, this doesn't work, you're gonna be able to say, oh wait, hold on, I just gotta go through the sales cycle. Sometimes the longest part of the sales cycle is finding a buyer. Finding a buyer can take 30, 60, 90 days, depending on the parcel. From my experience, this is purely based on my experience, a parcel that is way on the market, has street access, sells like that, okay? A parcel that is relatively decent market value, has street access, might take 2 weeks to sell, 3 weeks to sell. But the challenging parcels, this is probably the parcels that you don't even want to deal with. The ones with no access, the ones with maybe it didn't pass the perk test. There's just something wrong with it. It might be too small. It might not be buildable technically. Like these type of parcels, don't mess with it, because it's just gonna take you a long time to sell. And unless you have that bandwidth, you really want to deal and you really like say, I don't care how long it takes, I'm gonna wholesale it. And if the seller is on the same page as you, because I don't want you to have to buy those type of deals, you know, you can have them on the contract, and then you can actually go ahead and just, you know, wait for the time period for a buyer to come, right? Like you can list it or something like that. That's kind of like, from my experience, what I've noticed. Bigger parcels sell quickly, unless it's a slow market, or like if it's a slow market, then it just has to be like super cheap for people to just jump on it, right? Because the bigger parcels, what is it gonna come with? A higher asking price, and a higher asking price, not everybody can afford that. So it might take you more than 60 days, 90 days to find a buyer, because if it's in a very slow market, then nobody's gonna have the money to spend on it, or not a lot of eyes are on it. That's why it's important for you to, when you start off, to pick your market right. Pick your market. Sure, go into the secondary markets, but don't go into the super slow markets, right? Like the markets with a population of less than like 200, like, you know, like 300, less than like 250. If it's less than 250, just don't even go in that market, because it might end up being too slow. But then also the caveat is that sometimes you find a great deals in those markets because nobody else is in that market. And if you get it cheap enough and you can still sell it cheap enough, you can still make some money. I kind of just dropped a whole lot of game on you guys, man. Make sure you like this video if you guys are enjoying the content. Make sure you check out the links in the description if you're ready to take the next step. Go ahead and schedule a call with me. Let's see if we can get you to your first deal, man. I'm pretty excited. This is a great day today because I actually found a buyer for one of my parcels that I locked up a couple weeks ago. It took me like 2 weeks to find this buyer, and I'm probably making like 15 grand. So, you know, it's a pretty good day, you know what I'm saying? I'm pretty excited. That's kind of like why I wanted to share that, because I do have parcels still in the contract that it's been 30 days, it's been 45 days, and I haven't found a buyer yet. So, but those are obviously like, you know, in the market and the type of parcels that aren't good deals, basically, technically. Like if it takes too long to sell, it's not a super good deal, like just to be honest, or also the market is pretty slow. Anyways, subscribe to my channel, man. I appreciate you guys. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think about the video. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask in the comments. Check out the links in the description, and then I will see you guys in the next video. Let's go.